Hi, this is Kristen at Radiance and Grit. You can find my work at radianceandgrit.com on the wonderful, wonderful web. And right now, we're talking about tears. Seriously, tears. I don't know about you, but I'm gonna take a gander that perhaps this happens to you as well. That when we cry in public, and God forbid we are having an ugly cry and we need a box of tissues, we often find ourselves apologizing for crying and feeling bad and feeling ashamed. Oh my goodness, I cried. Oh my goodness, I cried. In public, and people saw them. And it wasn't a pretty trickle tear. It's like red nose and stuffed up for hours and red eyes kind of tears. And oh my goodness, if you have one of those, what's called an ugly cry, had many of those. It's often interested me that tears are shamed, genuine, real, heartfelt tears that are coming up for a reason. Usually to release something very deep, usually to help release a fear so your courage can rise. How those tears are not okay. But in fact, tears are just like rain. When we cry, we clear the way for releasing pain, releasing anger, releasing resentment, releasing what it is that has been coming between us and joy. And sometimes we even cry joyful tears, though those don't seem to fall into like the shameful category. Like they're in their own separate thing. But when it comes to those cleansing tears, the tears where we're really feeling the full depth of our emotion, a lot of times there's shame attached. I happen to live near a train currently. You will hear trains happen in my videos. I have made the decision to keep it real, keep it raw, which means that you will hear noises like trains and my insulin pump in these videos. So we're just rolling with it. So when it comes to tears and shame, I'm going to ask you to really question the shame aspect. And the next time you see someone crying, you don't have to make them stop crying. Please don't, actually. Tears are really, really healthy. Even when we are in the middle of some of the worst things in our lives, tears are incredibly healthy because they are releasing pent-up emotion, and that is good for our bodies. It relieves stress, and yes, even when you've cried so much, you have no more tears to cry. It is still really, really helpful for your body because you are emptying out a well, if you will. And sometimes our wells can get really deep and really dark because we've let all of that emotion build up so much that it feels like that is all there is to us. The pain, the agony, the stress, the worry, the depression, angst. It's just, we let that build up inside, and it's really, really hard on our bodies. Like super duper. I will even say cancer causing kind of hard on our bodies, and because it creates that grade of an imbalance. And disclaimer, I am not a doctor. I am simply an artist sharing life experiences with you. So please remember that. artists simply sharing real life, real experiences with you. And no, not crying does not cause cancer. You know, let's be real, guys. But it does, when we don't cry, it is not good for us. And one of the things that helps you tell that in your own body is when you cry, a lot of times you feel a lot lighter. It's like this, excuse me, it's like this heavy baggage comes up. And when we cry, it's like we're making room. It's not like we're making room within ourselves to experience other things, to experience a new way of being. It's not about, it's about connecting. That's what it's about. Crying is about connecting with ourselves, how we really truly feel. And we've been taught that the uncomfortable things, like grief and sadness, are not great things to have. But those things, they teach us a lot. They teach us a lot about ourselves. They teach us a lot about each other. They teach us about good ways to interact in the world and ways that are not healthy for anyone, really. We really truly can't appreciate the breadth of our joy if we not have experienced the depth of pain. And it's not that you have to experience pain to experience joy. You can have joy all the time with never having known grief. But there is something about knowing grief that does make the joy a lot more precious. And precious in a good way. Like precious in, we are appreciating the true value of what joy actually is in our lives. And I'm not talking monetary value. I'm talking about the value that goes with you beyond the reaches of this current plane of existence. The value of growing as a soul, of growing as, sorry, my battery just got low. The value of growing as a soul and experiencing flow and divine love. Those things are really amazing. And they're wonderful, positive emotions and wonderful ways of just being and living in flow with divine love. How cool is that? Doesn't matter what religion you practice or if you practice any at all. You don't have to. Divine love is all encompassing, which is amazing. But back to tears. So we're taught a lot as little kids. We need to stop crying. Or girls can cry, but boys can't, which is ridiculous. Everybody cries. I don't care how old you are. We all cry. And when we suppress crying, we kind of turn all of that sadness inward. We never let it out, and it becomes something much more toxic. Like depression. Depression doesn't feel good for anybody, especially the person who is depressed. But those darker emotions, please don't feel ashamed of them. And the reason I'm asking you to not feel ashamed is because those darker emotions, like grief, we don't feel grief if we haven't loved. We don't feel grief if we are not. Grief shows us how much we care. And if you or anyone you know of has ever been in grief, or the kind of ongoing grief that isn't resolving, that's called depression, that's often the sign of somebody who cares deeply. Deeply, deeply, deeply. But has learned to, instead of letting that grief out and naturally flow into other things, suppressing tears kind of compounds it, kind of adds layer on layer on layer on layer, and they can get pretty piled high. It's an interesting thing that tears are as natural and as healthy as laughing. I mean, we're all heard the benefits of laughing. Laughing is good for you. It actually is. It's a whole body workout. It's fantastic. You go to a comedy club and you realize all of a sudden that your little cheeks are tired from smiling and laughing so much. Your abs feel like they've had a good workout. Yeah, laughing's amazing. Tears are amazing too. Tears let a lot of things out. Tears cleanse the way. Tears are like an amazing storm. And let the tears flow. It's healthy. It's really healthy. And when we allow tears to happen, all of a sudden we start discovering things like courage. Because our tears can tell us where we're open and ready for more courage to come into our lives. For example, me talking on video, I'm not crying this time, which is cool. But it would be helpful because I'm talking about tears now. I'm sure there'll be another one where I cry. But tears also open the way for resilience. And this painting behind me, this one's all about resilience. And tears help us see ourselves. They help us receive messages from our higher self and our soul about what we really, really, truly want. Think about those moments where, out of the blue, you've cried and it's like this upwelling because you're realizing what you want and you feel like you can't have it. That's not actually a bad thing. That feeling, as intense as it is, as unpleasant as it is, it's actually a really, really good thing because it is like a straight arrow saying, hey, the ability to care for my horse, huge. That's important. I care about it. And the idea of somebody taking that away, I actually almost instant tears. I could start to feel them well up because I care a lot. I love my steed indeed. And taking care of him has literally changed my life. And I'll talk more about that later. You're going to hear a lot about horses in these videos because they're very near and dear to my heart. And usually I cry tears of joy, but there have been times where I have cried very deep tears of grief. And as I learned to work with tears, to listen to the messages that they're telling me, it helps you access an innate part of your body's wisdom system. And yeah, your body does have it does have a wisdom system, which is kind of a cool phrase. But anyways, moving on. But learning to access our wisdom by listening to what our tears are telling us when they're telling us what we care about, what doesn't move us to tears. I'm sure among us in our community here, there are a lot of us that have been moved to tears over the state of the planet. And a lot of people would shy away from, if the state of the planet is making me cry and it's sad and it's awful, I'm going to go to a happier place. I'm going to say, let's come back. Let's bring that in. Let's grab our tissues. And let's take a look at what the tears and the grief are telling us all about the state of our planet. They're telling us we actually care. We care a lot. And they're also telling us that sometimes we all feel pretty hopeless. And it is going to take a lot of courage to bring about the planetary shifts that need to happen together, individually and together. It's going to involve having hard conversations. It's going to involve a lot of leading by example. It's actually amazing how much you can do leading by example. For example, these tissues are made by a company called Who Gives a Crap, which I do. I do give a crap. And this is not that they are not sponsoring me to talk about these tissues. It just happens to be the brand of tissues I use a lot when I'm crying. Because they do really good things with their business, which, by the way, take a look, whogivesacrap.com. Do all kind of good things because they realized the toll that not having toilets has on world populations. And they also realized how using much more sustainable materials to make things like tissues that we don't really want to use again. I don't know about you, but I really don't like reusing my tissues. To be more loving and caring of the planet. And small things like that add up to be really, really huge things. So next time you cry, listen to your tears, write it down, record it, make a video about it. It's all good. I'm going to ask you to do something that feels a little awkward and silly at first, but if you've never done this, it's one of my favorite things that has come out of 2020 into 2021 and on and into the beyond. When you've had a good cry, or maybe you're in the middle of a cry, or maybe you're having one of those really, really bad times in your lives and you can't quite bring yourself to cry yet, but you know the tears are on the horizon. It's all right. This is good for every single one of them. I want you to give yourself a hug. Bring your arms up. Give yourself a good hug. Heck, I've had days. I had a day the other day where I was so upset because something had happened. And I spent the whole night curled up with me and my little self, hugging myself, literally, as I was sleeping. Because what this does is it tells your body you're safe, you're sound, and you are loved. And loving of oneself, we're going to be talking a lot about what really loving yourself actually means and is. This helps reinforce that. So, thank you. Thank you for coming along. I honor you and your tears. And I hope that they fall freely and that you listen to the messages they each contain. So I invite you to come over to my website, check out the artwork I'm creating, all kinds of good stuff. If you need help rising into your courage, highly recommend this particular painting. If you need help discovering resilience and hope, I recommend this one. There's a whole bunch of other gorgeous artworks you're going to find over there. And also that you sign up for my mailing list while you're visiting the website. So the website is radianceofgrit.com. And my mailing list is the Art and Soul letters. I love to write and I talk about real life stuff. Art. Living with dragons like diabetes, chronic illness, all kinds of stuff. And it's good stuff. And, you know, cool stuff like astrology and saving the planet, which surprisingly go hand in hand. So anyways, with deep love for you all, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.